What is that?
It's like it's looking at us.
Hey, where are you going?
Listen. Oh, Lord. What are you?
Where the Bayou lights shine. Marcus Duvall woke at 3 in the morning to a sound that wasn't there. The silence in the house had become so thick it felt like the air itself had frozen. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, counting his heartbeats, 42, 43, 44. He'd done this every night since Celine left. A year had passed. 365 days without her. The house on Bayou Road still smelled of her perfume, lavender and something sweet Marcus couldn't name. He hadn't moved her things. Books on the nightstand, a cup on the kitchen table, even her old sweater draped over the chair, everything stayed in place, as if she'd only stepped out for a moment. Marcus rose from bed and walked to the window. Outside, the Louisiana humidity persisted even into autumn, the air so dense you could cut it with a knife. Beyond the window stretched the abandoned canals running along the industrial zone. This had once been a lively New Orleans suburb, but after Hurricane Katrina, many houses stood empty and the canals had turned into stagnant swamps. He touched the ring hanging on the chain around his neck. The gold was cold. Always cold. Marcus often wondered if he still felt anything besides this coldness inside. And then he saw it for the first time. Over the canal water, about 20 yards from the house, a small light appeared. Blue, flickering, like a candle flame burning without wind. It danced above the surface of the dark water, moving slowly along the bank. Marcus didn't immediately realize he was watching something unnatural. At first he thought, a lantern, maybe someone walking by the canal. But the light moved too smoothly, too deliberately. It stopped directly across from his window. Marcus couldn't look away from the light. It pulsed like a living heart, and there was something hypnotic in that rhythm. He felt his breathing slow, synchronizing with the fire's flicker. Deep in his chest, a strange sensation emerged, not fear, but something else. Recognition. As if this light knew him. Suddenly it vanished. Marcus blinked. The canal plunged back into darkness. Only the distant hum of the highway reminded him the world hadn't stopped. He stood by the window for several more minutes, waiting for it to return. But nothing happened. The next morning, when he arrived at work, the warehouse near the industrial zone where he worked as a night guard, his colleague Derek was already waiting by the entrance with his phone in hand. "Did you see the news?" Derek showed him the screen. "Another one missing. Woman from Market Street. Went out last night and never came back." Marcus took the phone. On the screen was a photo of a smiling middle-aged woman, Claire Dubois, 45 years old. The article said she was last seen near the old canal, not far from her house. Neighbors said she'd been complaining about strange lights over the water. "That's the fourth one this month," Derek said, taking back his phone. "Police say it's fog, people get disoriented, fall in the water." "But that's nonsense, Marcus. The canal's shallow there. Bodies should have surfaced." Marcus said nothing. He remembered the blue light dancing over the water last night. Remembered how it stopped across from his window. As if waiting. That evening, before his shift started, Marcus stopped by the local bar on the corner of Dauphine Street. He didn't drink, not after nearly drowning in a bottle a year ago, but he needed to hear what people were saying. The bar was half empty. At the counter sat old René, a fisherman who knew these swamps better than anyone. Marcus sat beside him and ordered coffee. "You heard about the disappearances?" Marcus asked. René nodded slowly, not looking away from his beer. Feu Follet, he whispered. Swamp lights. They've come back. Marcus frowned. Those are old tales. Tourist legends. René turned to him. His eyes were cloudy, but they held certainty. Legends? My grandfather saw them in '59. 3 people disappeared that summer. Only found one. He was standing knee-deep in water, staring into nothing, laughing. Died a week later in the psych ward. Said the lights promised to show him the way home. The way where? Marcus asked quietly. René finished his beer and stood up. Where the pain ends, Marcus. Where those you've lost are waiting for you. The old man left, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts. That night, when Marcus returned home, the lights were already waiting. There were 3 of them. They circled above the canal like dancers in some ritual only they understood. And when Marcus stepped onto the balcony, all 3 stopped. Turned toward him. And then he heard it. Laughter. High-pitched, ringing, almost childlike. It didn't come from the lights, it came from inside his head, spreading through his consciousness like cold water. The laughter wasn't malicious. It was joyful. As if someone had been waiting a long time for this meeting. Marcus gripped the ring on his chain. The metal burned his fingers with cold. The light slowly drifted toward shore. Toward his house. Marcus stepped back from the balcony railing. The lights approached slowly, leaving a faint shimmer over the dark water. He knew he should go inside, lock the doors, turn off the lights. But his legs wouldn't obey. Something in this light held him in place, not fear, but a strange, almost tender anticipation. Suddenly the light stopped at the very edge of the bank, just a few yards from his house. And in that moment Marcus smelled it. Lavender. The same perfume Celine had worn. His heart beat faster. He leaned over the railing, trying to see the lights better. In their shimmer it seemed like something was moving, shadows, silhouettes, outlines of something almost human. Celine. He whispered into the darkness. The lights froze. Then one separated from the others and slowly rose higher, to the level of the balcony. Now Marcus could see it up close, a blue flame pulsing like a living creature, with tiny sparks swirling inside. And again, laughter. But this time it sounded different. Gentler. Almost soothing. Marcus reached out his hand. The fire was so close he could feel warmth, or cold, he couldn't tell which. A few more inches and he would touch it. See what was inside. Learn if this was real. Suddenly a voice rang out from the darkness of the street. Don't touch it. Marcus flinched. The light instantly vanished, flying back to the canal where the other 2 lights were already dissolving into the fog. Within seconds the balcony was plunged back into darkness. By his gate stood a young woman with a camera around her neck and a notebook in her hands. She was breathing heavily, as if she'd run here. I'm sorry I scared you, she said, approaching. But you have no idea what could have happened. I'm Jasmine LeBlanc. I've been documenting these disappearances. Marcus stared at her, still not fully processing what had happened. His hand was still trembling. You saw them? He asked. Jasmine nodded. I've been tracking the lights for 3 weeks. They appear every night, choose someone, and lead them to the water. Everyone who followed them disappeared. Everyone except one. She pulled a folder of printouts from her bag. Photos of missing people, newspaper clippings, a map of the area with markers. Marcus recognized some faces, neighbors, people he'd seen in stores. "What connects them?" he asked. Jasmine looked into his eyes. "They all lost someone close to them. Recently. And they all couldn't accept that loss." Marcus felt coldness spreading down his spine. He involuntarily touched the ring on his chain. Jasmine noticed the gesture. "Your wife," she said quietly. "Celine Duvall. I read about what happened. I'm so sorry." Marcus turned away. He didn't want to talk about it. Not with a stranger. Not with anyone. "Why are you here?" he asked sharply. "Because my brother disappeared 3 years ago by this same canal," Jasmine answered. "He saw the lights. Told me they were calling him. I didn't believe him. Thought he was just going through a rough time after his divorce. And then he left one night and never came back." She paused, gripping the folder in her hands. "I know what you're feeling, Marcus. I know what someone looks like when they want to follow those lights. Because I almost went myself 2 weeks ago. They came to me. I heard my brother's voice. He said everything was okay, that I didn't need to be afraid anymore. I was already standing by the water when—" She didn't finish. Just shook her head. Marcus sat down on the balcony steps. Exhaustion crashed over him with full force. "What are they?" he whispered. "What do they want?" "I don't know exactly," Jasmine said. "But I know someone who might. There's a man here, Father Louis Tremblay. An old priest. He lives by the chapel at the edge of the swamp. People say he knows more about the Feu Follet than anyone in these parts." Marcus looked at the canal. The lights were gone. Only dark water and fog slowly creeping in from the swamps. "I'll go see him tomorrow," he said. Jasmine nodded and pulled out a business card. "Call me when you find out anything. Please. I need to know the truth. About my brother. About all of them." Marcus took the card. After Jasmine left, he sat on the steps for a long time, staring into the darkness. The scent of lavender still lingered in the air. And somewhere far away, from the direction of the canal, came a quiet, almost imperceptible laughter. The lights hadn't left. They were just waiting. The old chapel stood at the very edge of the swamp, surrounded by cypress trees growing straight out of the water. The paint on the walls had long since peeled, and the wooden steps creaked under Marcus's weight. He knocked on the door. No one answered. So he simply pushed. It wasn't locked. Inside smelled of incense and old wood. Father Louis sat in a chair by the window, gazing at the swamp. He didn't turn when Marcus entered. "I knew you'd come," the old man said. "They always send someone before they take them for good." Marcus stopped in the middle of the room. "You know what they are? These lights?" Father Louis slowly stood. He was tall but hunched, with a gray beard and eyes that had seen too much. "Feu Follet," he said. "Wandering souls. Those who died in the swamp without finding peace. They cannot move on, so they take others. But not everyone. Only those who are ready to go themselves." He approached Marcus, studying him carefully. "You lost someone, it wasn't a question. And you cannot let go. That's why they chose you." Marcus clenched his fists. "My wife. Celine. She drowned a year ago. I couldn't save her. And now you think the lights can bring her back?" There was no judgment in Father Louis's voice, only understanding. They won't bring her back, son. They'll only show you what you want to see. And then they'll take you where there's no return. Marcus felt something inside him crack. Then what do I do? How do I live with this? Father Louis placed a hand on his shoulder. You must let go. Not her memory. Not your love. But the guilt. You're not to blame for what happened. And she wouldn't want you to follow her into darkness. Marcus shook his head. You don't understand. I saw her. In the lights. I heard her voice. No, Father Louis said firmly. You saw what they wanted you to see. That's not Celine. It's a trap. The oldest trap in the world, the promise of returning what's been lost. Marcus stepped back. He couldn't listen anymore. Didn't want to. He walked out of the chapel without looking back. Behind him came Father Louis's voice. If you go to them tonight, take something that reminds you of life. Not death. Life. That evening Marcus stood on the balcony. The lights were already there. More than before, 5, 6, maybe more. They circled above the canal, creating an intricate pattern of light and shadow. And then one separated. Drifted to shore. Rose higher. And inside it Marcus saw a face. Celine. She was smiling. Reaching out her hand. Her lips moved as if speaking his name. Marcus knew it wasn't her. Knew Father Louis was right. But part of him, the part that woke every night at 3 a.m. counting heartbeats, the part so tired of pain, wanted to believe. He stepped onto the balcony railing. One more step and he'd be at the light. One more and he'd know the truth. The ring on his chain burned with cold. He gripped it so hard the metal cut into his skin. Celine, he whispered. If this is really you, tell me. What should I do? The light froze. The face inside became clearer. And the lips moved. Let go. Marcus shuddered. It was her voice. Real. Not distorted, not false. Let me go, Marcus. Live. The light flared brighter, and shattered into 1,000 sparks. The face vanished. All the other lights above the canal froze, then slowly began to retreat, sinking into the fog. Marcus fell to his knees on the balcony. He wept. For the first time in a year he wept truly. The next morning Marcus woke on the balcony floor. The sun was already rising over the canal, painting the water in golden hues. He stood, feeling the ache in his muscles, but something inside had changed. The weight pressing on his chest for an entire year had grown lighter. He looked at the canal. The water was calm, almost transparent in the early light. No lights. No shadows. Just an ordinary swamp on the city's outskirts. Marcus went inside and for the first time in months opened the windows wide. Fresh air rushed in, dispersing the stale smell. He walked to Celine's nightstand, took her books and carefully placed them on the shelf. Washed the cup from the kitchen table and put it in the cabinet. Folded the sweater from the chair and placed it in a box. He didn't throw these things away. Just put them in order. Gave them a place. Gave himself permission to keep living. The phone rang. Jasmine. Marcus, her voice trembled with excitement. They found Claire Dubois. Alive. She was standing by the old chapel, soaked but alive. Says she doesn't remember how she got there. That the last thing she remembers is lights over the water, and then someone's voice telling her to go back. Marcus gripped the phone tighter. Did anyone else come back? Yes, Jasmine paused. 2 more. They were found this morning by the swamps. All alive. All saying the same thing, the lights let them go. Marcus looked at the ring in his hand. He'd held it all night, even while sleeping. Now the metal was warm from his palm. They won't come back, he said quietly. The lights. They're gone. Jasmine was silent for several seconds. How do you know? Because they got what they wanted, Marcus answered. Not victims. But release. For themselves and for us. He looked at Celine's photograph on the wall. Her smile seemed different now, not a reminder of pain, but a memory of happiness that was. Thank you, Jasmine, he said. For stopping me that night. Thank Father Louis, she replied. He knew what he was doing. When the call ended, Marcus went out on the balcony one last time. He removed the chain with the ring and walked to the railing. For several seconds he held it over the water, feeling the weight of the metal, the weight of memories. Then he slowly turned and placed the chain in his pocket. Didn't throw it away. Didn't discard it. Just moved it from his heart to a safe place where memories could live without taking life. The canal below him was quiet. The lights no longer danced over the water. The swamp had become just a swamp again. And Marcus Duvall began to breathe. A week later Marcus met Jasmine again by the chapel. Father Louis sat on the porch, watching the swamp. When they approached, he smiled, for the first time in a long while. You came back, he said. Both of you. Jasmine laid a bouquet of flowers on the steps. For my brother, she explained. I don't know where he is now. But I want to believe he found peace. Father Louis nodded. The lights don't appear anymore. For the first time in many years the swamp is silent. You did what needed to be done, you let go. And they let you go. Marcus looked at the water. It was dark but no longer frightening. Just water, part of this place, part of nature. What about those who didn't come back? He asked quietly. They made their choice, Father Louis said. Pain is sometimes stronger than the will to live. But you chose differently. And gave others a chance to do the same. Marcus touched his pocket where the ring lay. He would carry it always. But now it wasn't a chain, it was a bond. Not to the past, but to a love that doesn't vanish even after death. Jasmine took his hand. What will you do now? She asked. Marcus looked at the sunrise over the swamp. Light broke through the fog, painting the sky in warm colors. Live, he said simply. I'm going to live. They stood together, 3 people who had survived the darkness and found their way back to the light. Behind them the chapel creaked quietly in the wind. Ahead, the swamp where the lights no longer danced. Where the bayou no longer shone with its terrible lights. Where darkness ended and forgiveness began.